I know I'm kind of stating the obvious here, but Rotten Tomatoes is an absolute joke. As we've seen over the past couple days with the Rise of Skywalker score on Rotten Tomatoes, it has remained at an 86% audience score, and it hasn't moved at all, despite the fact that it is almost to 50,000 reviews from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. And it hasn't moved at all. As you can see here, just by this GIF, yes, I kind of go back and forth from GIF to GIF. I don't know. Just depends on my mood, I guess. But as you can see here, it shows that the score does not move, which is like, it's impossible for this to be the case. With so many scores coming in and it doesn't change from 86% at all. No, I do not believe this for a single second, and neither does anybody who has an ounce of common sense. I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes anymore. I used to trust them. I used to find Rotten Tomatoes a credible source. But after they literally changed their system for Captain Marvel at the beginning of this year, I do not trust them for a single moment. They literally changed their entire system to protect Captain Marvel. And now we're seeing, once again, kind of a similar situation happening with Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now, at first I was just kind of like, okay, you know what, maybe it's not really that big of a deal. You know, I don't really want to buy into conspiracy theories or anything. But as we look more into this entire thing that's going on right now with Rise of Skywalker and the audience score, it's becoming more and more clear that there is indeed something fishy going on, and I'll show you some evidence of that in a little bit here. So this comes from Bleeding Fool. Now that The Rise of Skywalker's out, many are watching Rotten Tomatoes closely to see what's happening with his audience score, which is maintaining a solid 86% fresh rating in spite of thousands of additional viewer scores coming in. And like the amount of reviews that are coming in for this movie, it's like impossible for it to be maintaining the 86% like it has been. So Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker debuted last week, and its domestic take was down nearly 30% under the first entry of the Disney sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens. Still, the latest installment ranked as one of the best December openings in North America and is expected to end a strong year for Disney. Rotten Tomatoes, the online movie and television review aggregate website, which isn't much of an aggregate anymore. Like, if they're changing reviews or meddling with the system, they're not an aggregate website, came under fire 2 years ago for claiming that their audience score for the previous Star Wars sequel, The Last Jedi, was negatively review bombed, but which was I think probably part of the effect of what happened here, because as we all know, when the mainstream media will attack a company or an individual or something, that person usually ends up bending the knee to the mainstream media, far left lunatics out there. And I think that that's kind of what happened with Rotten Tomatoes as well, especially during the whole Captain Marvel fiasco. But later reported that this was not the case after all. Still, they eventually changed the way they measure audience engagement and excitement when fans use the feature on the website to express their desire not to see the upcoming Captain Marvel movie before the film had ever been released. And of course, as we all know, they changed their system on Rotten Tomatoes so that like they have like the verified audience score and the normal audience score. Verified audience score pretty much means that you need to have like your movie, you need to have proof that you went and saw the movie in theaters in order to count as a verified audience score, which just goes to show that now Rotten Tomatoes has more control over their system than ever before. If they can control who gets to be part of the verified audience, then they can pretty much control anything that they want. In fact, there was even some questions about the veracity of their audience scores and reviews for the Disney Lucasfilm animated series Star Wars Resistance, where it appeared that over 1,000 fake 5-star reviews for the series had been posted there for an unpopular show that was very quickly canceled. Now that the final episode of the Skywalker saga has been released, many have been watching the Rotten Tomatoes score closely to see what's been happening with its audience score. While the critical reviews have been abysmal, scoring the film as rotten, the audience score has mysteriously maintained a solid 86% fresh rating in spite of thousands upon thousands of additional viewer scores being added every day. which, like I said, is like impossible. There's no way that it is maintaining an 86% after all of these days, after so many reviews. While the disparity between the two scores is not impossible, nor even common, it is curious that the audience score is not changing. Exactly. Sure, there's the obvious data integrity issue involved, since most people who are motivated to see the film on opening weekend and who then immediately post a review on Rotten Tomatoes are very likely going to give it glowing reviews. They're what you might call invested, which is why when the score first came out for Rise of Skywalker and it was at like at 88%, I was like, okay, you know what? Sure, this makes sense because a lot of people are not happy with Star Wars, and the people that aren't happy with Star Wars probably aren't going to see it as much as the people that love Disney Star Wars. So yes, of course it's going to have such a high review. And I was like, just wait, after this weekend it's going to drop, and it didn't. But the curious part is that in spite of tens of thousands of new audience members logging in to add their scores, the number has still remained at a solid 86%. Behold these screen grabs. Note how many audience members have logged a score for each screen grab below, but you can see that the percentage who rate it positively have not shifted at all. So yeah, it just shows that it's at 86% from so many reviews. So 6,000 views, or 6,000 reviews, 86%, 29,000 reviews, 86%, 39,000 reviews, 86%. I'm not trying to say the movie is terrible and shouldn't have an audience score that high. While I haven't seen it yet and plan to wait until it's available to stream. So basically, yeah, like that isn't where my issue lies with this. Like if the audience actually gave it that positive a review, I'd be like, okay, fine. I guess most people enjoy this movie. I definitely am not one of those people, but hey, if that's the case, then that's the case. But I do think there's something else going on here. Anyway, so the Quartering did a video on it as well. But there's one more interesting thing that I want to point out. This isn't getting very much traction, but I found this very interesting. But the audience score is at 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is the excuse I keep getting in many groups and chats I've been in the last few days. But I literally sat down this morning and took the time to go through all 21,000 audience ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. What I found was pretty interesting. Out of the 21,000 ratings, 12,000 audience ratings are users that have only reviewed The Rise of Skywalker and have no active rating outside of it. Of the verified accounts, there are 9,897 that are unclickable users, meaning the account was made without providing a profile, aka bots. And sure enough, every one of those accounts listed it at 5 stars and used some form of great end to the trilogy in their reviews. So either almost 10,000 people created new accounts just to give the same glowing review, and none of them bothered making a linkable profile, or Disney is genuinely having bots boost their score on Rotten Tomatoes. All other review sites have Revenge of the Sith, Rise of the Skywalker. Gosh, I can't remember the stupid movie's name. And even rating, meaning not bad but not good, which is fair, but mathematically that would put an average audience rating somewhere between 65 to 75%. Do not trust Rotten Tomatoes, and it is indeed at like 50-some% on Metacritic, which means that on, on Rotten Tomatoes for Rise of Skywalker, it should be kind of around the 50 to 60% range, and it's at an 86%, which makes it pretty fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Thank you, Dustin Michaels, for doing this research on this entire thing as well. So, what do I think? At first, I was just kind of like, you know what, I don't think this is really that big of a deal. Maybe people are just generally more positive about this movie than what I realized, and that's totally fine. But as all of this information has been gathered for me, and I've been kind of posting it together or putting it together and stuff, and kind of looking at all of the different aspects of this entire thing, I really do think there is something fishy going on here. I really do think that Disney is messing with the audience score. Somehow, they're working with Rotten Tomatoes to make this happen. Rotten Tomatoes bent the knee to Disney, and they did whatever they asked when it came to Captain Marvel. I think the same thing is happening here with Rise of Skywalker. But with that being said, let me know in the comments below what you think. What do you think is going on here? Do you think that this is all just kind of a conspiracy? Or do you think there is indeed something happening with the audience score? Like I said, the fact that it has remained an 86% after like 40,000, 45,000 reviews is like impossible. That is absolutely unheard of when it comes to any type of movie for having that many reviews. With that being said, let me know in the comments below what you think, and I will talk to you all very soon in another video. Talk to you later. Bye.
With my heart's desire.